Here's my meeting. Here's me redirecting to YouTube. All right, does that mean we're live? I don't know. It says meeting is now live streaming. All right, here we are. Hello. It's been a while since I've done some recording, so here we go. I am going to be recording this episode for Martial Arts and Crafts. Yeah, it's good to be here. All right, let's get everything set up here the way it needs to be. And then we are going to smack that record button and get going and do the recording. So thank you for joining me on YouTube if that's where you like to watch. I know it's super interesting just watching my face talk, but I know a lot of times we don't always watch when we have YouTube on. So that is a thing too. I know how it is. All right. Okay, welcome to the recording of the show that will come out in a couple weeks. Here we go. Hello and welcome back to the Martial Arts and Crafts podcast. I am your host, Sarah Deacon. It is a pleasure to be here with you. I am recording. It is lovely and sunny out today. Oh, I'm feeling good. So today's episode, we're talking about something that many of us struggle with, especially those of us who may be a little bit younger, a little bit more new to the realm of adulting, is belonging. So that is something that I've been sitting with lately, feeling like I don't belong places that I've been welcomed, and every bit of data tells me that it's fine and I'm welcome and I'm loved and I'm supported and I belong. Sometimes even tracking all that data, it can feel like I don't. Maybe you felt that way too. We're going to talk a little bit more about belonging as we get into this episode. One of the earliest skills that we begin to develop as human beings is this ability to sort and classify objects and, let's be honest, people in our environment. The games are simple. Here are the shapes. Which one doesn't belong? Oh, look, it's a triangle. Then it's a different kind of triangle. Then it's another triangle. Then it's a circle. And then it's a triangle and another triangle. Which one doesn't belong, right? Even small children, it's less than a year old, can sometimes just pick out that thing that doesn't belong, right? And these games, they help us. They help us to develop these critical thinking skills. They help us to classify and track differences. We learn to understand relationships. We compare, we contrast, we observe and categorize, right? The process is necessary for our proper development, and it begins in infancy. Like I said, when you're a very small child, less than a year old. And it's even possible that this categorization, observation, comparison skill even could develop well before we're born. For example, in the womb, you can hear and sense the energy, the motion of the mother. You can determine the differences between your mother's voice and your father's voice and someone outside of your family, for instance. This is all true. This is all observable, quantifiable. This has been studied, that the sounds we hear in the womb carry with us, and we recognize them as we're born. Babies recognize their mother's voice. Babies recognize their father's voice. They recognize the people that spent time close speaking with the mother. Okay, so we categorize, we compare, contrast. We learn the relationships in this way from pre-birth, and then of course even more in infancy and toddlerhood and beyond. And eventually I don't know, maybe you do, maybe I know I do. We begin to see ourselves as that circle. looking for where we really belong in a world full of triangles. Of course, this is a bit of an oversimplification. For me, like I said, it's also been true. Let's go back in time for a minute, talk about when I was in grade school, elementary school. I wanted to be an artist when I grew up. I wanted so badly. And I told everyone that this is what I'm going to be. And I knew that my spirit of creativity and my passion for beautiful things and for creating and making and figuring out problems in a rather roundabout way was not quite like everybody else's. And then when I got to high school, I started finding the people who I thought like me, the artists. I took art classes, I took photography classes, I took calligraphy classes, I took painting classes, drawing classes, all the art classes I could. And something I found when I participated in those classes was that even these people who were creative like me, who created like me in their own way, they didn't actually quite seem like me, like my people. There was something different, something I couldn't quite put my finger on, but for some reason, I still felt like that circle. Maybe these people were more of a, I don't know, a squiggly line kind of people instead of a triangle people. But you get my point. The feeling like I didn't even belong where I thought I always would, that hit me hard. And my whole identity as an artist kind of fell apart around that time in high school. Even my teachers didn't quite connect with me in the way I had expected to happen. So I chose to expand and just call myself a creative. Well, I'm not an artist. I'm creative. I am a creative. And I did this in order to see where else I might belong. Maybe I belonged with musicians, vocalists, maybe gamers, photographers, painters, poets, performers. I tried on all of them. Yes, I did. And well, I couldn't read music, so cross out the musician part. I sang well, but not quite well enough to make a real gung-ho go of it. You know what I mean? Yes, I was a gamer, and back in that time, we didn't have the online gaming world that we have today. So the whole reason I got into gaming, and it was the nerdiest of gaming, the tabletop role-playing game. And the reason I got into that was because one of my theater friends was one of those nerdy gamers who actually started to evolve the stories and the games he played into a more immersive, almost improvisational theater experience, which I loved. And I made some very, very good friends there. In fact, met my husband that way. The photographers, again, there was all this technical knowledge and know-how that I just couldn't wrap my mind around. And honestly, my school only offered one single photography class at the time. And I took it and it was great. And then I didn't quite know where to go with it because I didn't feel 100% committed to photography as my art. The painters, again, those were those artsy people that I connected on one level with, but not on a deeper level of really, really feeling like I belonged with them. The painters, the poets, the performers, same deal. The performers were probably where I felt most comfortable. I did do some poetry readings, which was great throughout high school, college, all that. I really loved poetry because it did blend some of my creativity and the performance ability that I have into this nice little package. And again, poets are weird. No offense intended to any of my fabulous poet friends, but be honest, you're weird, right? Like, I'm a poet. I get it. I am weird. And some of the poets became very good friends again, and I found a fit with some, but the poets as a group, again, I felt a little bit not quite the right shape for that world. And I kept doing this. I did my best to, contort my personality to fit in with these groups, the poets, the gamers, the creatives, the musicians, the actors, the performers, all of the people, the photographers, gamers, all the ones I said. And I tried to contort myself to fit those groups, to belong, to feel like more of a triangle instead of a circle in those groups of triangles. But that circle self of mine, man, that just kept shining through. Now, I made friends who I thought would be in my life forever. And either I grew or they grew, or I just lost them for other reasons. And this happened over and over as I, like I said, tried on group to group, traveled between them and among them, and tried to immerse myself and change myself and evolve myself into them. And I thought, this sucks. There must be something wrong with me, because I didn't fit in all of those places that I thought I should. Everyone else seemed to know who they were and how to be that way in a way that fit. And my friends, they didn't understand me anymore when I grew or changed or tried something outside of that triangle stuff, for lack of a better term. And the truth is, and here's where my learning comes in. The truth of it is that none of us are triangles all of the time, or circles even. The triangular people are just as confused about who they are when they're hanging out with the square people or the circle people or the octagon people, right? And even the octagon people, let me tell you, are not octagonal all the time either. This is what I've learned. And what I'm getting at here is that we need to identify and categorize. We need to make assessments about where we fit, because the people we fit with in the different aspects of our lives are the ones who will help us grow more secure about our natural shape. We can mingle with the others and allow our true shape to shine at the same time. We can find a fit even in places where it might look like we shouldn't. Because if the circle people only hung out with circles are just normal, might even become boring. But to those who have always thought in terms of lines and angles, the circle is a marvel. Whether you feel like you belong wherever you are, or if you feel like you don't belong, you do have something to offer the group that surrounds you, even if some of them are nothing like you. You have a challenge to give them. You have that inspiration to bring. You have that marvelous magic of being different in your unique way. They have something to offer you too. And what we learn by sorting and categorizing the world around us is that there is more than one way to classify every single thing. Think about kindergarten. You're sorting by shapes, but each shape is also a certain color, right? Sometimes you get those cards. It's the red square and the blue circle and the blue square and the red circle and the green triangle and the green octagon and the red octagon and the blue octagon. You know what I'm saying? There's more than one way to classify those cards. You can classify them by color. You can classify them by shape. And either way, there's something in common. There's more than one way to classify things. And your combination of categories is what makes you you. You're not just one thing. You're not just one shape. That's what I've learned. And it's taken me a long time to learn this. And you may find that you do fit with one group more easily than with others. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't belong with the group that challenge you or stretches you or maybe even reshapes you in a loving and authentic way. That's something that can also happen because we have our core and we get to choose how we show up, how we express it, how we fit. And while we may change our shape to fit in with a group, what is really cool is when our shape changes or shifts because of a inner growth, an inner change that's not for that outside group and not for the sake of belonging, but is a result of belonging to a group that doesn't quite match everything we are. Because again, that would be boring. It's okay to evolve. It's okay to change shape. It's okay to be who you are, even if the people who surround you aren't that way. And it's also totally okay to move out of a group that doesn't feel right, a group that doesn't challenge you in a positive growth way. And it's okay to move on and find a better fit, whatever shape, because you belong right here, right where you are right now at this very moment. Even if it's not comfortable. Maybe it's not comfortable for you right here and right now, but I want to tell you the truth of it. You do belong. There is a reason that you are the way that you are. Your curves or your angles are exactly the right tools you need in order to live your unique purpose and to impact the people around you in a way that only you can. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty impressive. And if you believe that you belong, guess what? You may find belonging. But how do you know? How do you really know? How do you find where you really fit? You keep categorizing. You keep sorting. I know we're taught not to judge, not to treat people a certain way because of the category they may fall into, right? But listen, there are billions of labels out there that you can try on too, like new clothes. I mean, there's some you can't, let's be honest, but there are billions of labels to try on. And I know a lot of people don't like labels. They don't want to be put into a box. But listen, by avoiding labels or boxes entirely, We can't actually really learn what categories work for us and which ones don't. Because humans, we will always have labels. I know we're trying really hard not to. But at the same time as we're trying this, it's coming up that the labels actually do something for us. They actually serve our sense of identity and purpose and belonging. Because we're hardwired to sort this stuff out. We're wired to categorize these objects, creatures, plants, and I know each other. And as much as you want to reject labels, by rejecting labels, guess what? You then become labeled as a person who rejects labels. We can't escape it. We can, however, become less attached to how other people label us. And the good news is you don't have to limit yourself to one label for your entire life. You don't even have to fully commit to any of them. And that's the beauty of people being much more versatile than a simple two-dimensional shape, as my metaphor throughout this episode has handled and used and talked about them as. We're more than that, right? We are far, far more versatile than circles and triangles and octagons. You can have your artist friends, and you can have your theater friends, and you can have your work friends and your movie watching friends. You are a multifaceted being, and you are a marvel just by being you. And you get to choose how you move through this life and who moves with you. Will you always fit? Will you always fit with that one core group? Maybe. Some people do. I know people who've been friends with each other continuously since elementary school. Personally, I've had friendships ebb and flow into and out of my life. Still being in touch on places like Facebook, but, not really hanging out on the regular, so to speak. Because it's much more likely that as you grow and change, the groups to which you belong will evolve along with you. Some of the people may stay, you might lose some others. And I finally decided, because it is a choice, it's a decision, finally decided to be okay with that in my life. I have spent a not insignificant amount of time mourning friendships that changed, that split, broke, faded away. And I'm coming to understand about myself that this is part of my process, part of my growth, part of my learning, part of my evolution and expansion. And choosing to be okay with that. There are going to be some people that stay in my life forever, and that's a beautiful thing. Will they stay in my life forever in always the same way? No, they won't. And that's also beautiful because it's exactly the way it's supposed to be. Because I'm changing, I'm choosing, they're changing, they're choosing, and our paths may combine for a little while. They may merge for a little while along the way. And then they may split, cross, merge again down the road. And it's all just how it is. And that's life. And you belong in ways you don't even realize. You belong to this human race of people that has something for literally everyone. So if you haven't found your people yet, keep looking. Don't give up. because they're out there. And if you need a place to feel like you belong, if you feel like you connect with me in any way, I want to invite you to the group that I will post in the show notes. It's a group on Facebook. And I know Facebook is like, you know, I don't know, so last century or whatever. I don't know. I know Facebook is not all that as it used to be, but I have enjoyed connecting in certain ways on Facebook. So I do host a group on Facebook called the Recalibration Room, and it is a place of belonging, a place to belong, a place to connect, a place to create, a place to reset, and like I said, recalibrate, like it says. Yes. So if you're interested in belonging to part of something I'm creating on Facebook or anywhere else, you can find me there in the Recalibration Room on Facebook, or you can find me on my website, sarahdeacon.com, or mymartialartsandcrafts.com, which has the links to this podcast and some of my continuing artsy goodness. You can find me on the social media at Facebook at Sarah Deacon Coach or My Martial Arts and Crafts, and same thing on Instagram. And yes, I have also recently joined TikTok, so you can find me over there if you really want to. Thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like this was a really, really fun episode, a really good one, going deep with this classification and belonging experience. So if you have thoughts, I would love for you to share them. You can find me wherever you've already found me and all of the places I listed before. Thank you again for listening, and I will talk to you again next week. All right, YouTube land, thank you for watching. I've got to head off to the next meeting. Thanks so much for being here and, you know, watching me scratch my eyebrow while I record a podcast. So fabulous. Thank you again, and enjoy the show when it comes out. You, by watching on YouTube here, get the fabulous unedited version just because I like you that much. So thank you. Take care. Have a great, beautiful, wonderful, magical, magnificent, marvelous day.